Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station, watching the screens with growing amazement. 10 massive ships had appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. The ships looked like floating cities made of silver and crystal, each one big enough to hold 1 million people. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Kim Do-hyun from his station. His voice was shaky. Everyone on the bridge knew this was humanity's first real contact with aliens. "Put it through," Lee Minho said. He tried to keep his voice steady, but his heart was beating fast. The main screen flickered, then showed a creature that made several crew members gasp. It had 6 arms, skin like tree bark, and eyes that glowed with a soft blue light. When it spoke, the words came through a translation device. "Greetings, primitive species of the 3rd planet. I am Executor Vexthul of the Galactic Council. I bring an official message for your leaders." Admiral Park Soo-jin arrived on the bridge just as the alien began speaking again. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair, but everyone respected her. She had fought in 3 wars and never lost a battle. "Your species has been observed," the alien continued. "You have spread to 17 star systems without permission. You have built weapons without asking the Council first. You have shown dangerous signs of independence. This cannot be allowed to continue." Lee Minho looked at Admiral Park. She raised one eyebrow but said nothing. The alien's 6 arms moved as it spoke. "The Galactic Council represents 847 civilized species across this galaxy. We maintain order. We keep peace. We decide which species may grow and which must be controlled." "Controlled?" Admiral Park asked quietly. The alien seemed to hear her. "Yes, controlled. Your species will now follow Council law. You will surrender all military ships and weapons immediately. You will accept Council governors on all your worlds. You will provide 60% of your population as workers for the Council's projects." The bridge went completely silent. Everyone stared at the screen. "These workers will serve for 50 of your years," the alien went on. "This is your punishment for expanding without permission. It is also your chance to prove you can be useful to civilized species." Commander Bae Sung-hwan, the station's chief engineer, made a choking sound. 60% of our people. As slaves?" The alien's glowing eyes focused on him. "Not slaves. Indentured servants. There is a difference. Slaves get nothing. Indentured servants get food and shelter while they work." Admiral Park stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" "Refusal is not possible," the alien said. Its voice had no emotion at all. "Every species receives this message. Every species accepts within 1 of your days. Those who try to resist are removed completely. We have done this 846 times before. You will be no different." The alien's image started to fade. "You have 24 of your hours to prepare your surrender. Gather your leaders. Make your peace with whatever gods you worship. The Council's judgment cannot be changed." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody on the bridge moved. Then Lee Minho turned to Admiral Park. "Admiral, what are our orders?" Admiral Park stared at the blank screen for several seconds. Then something strange happened. Her mouth started to twitch. The twitch became a smile. The smile became a chuckle. The chuckle became full, loud laughter. "Admiral?" Kim Do-hyun asked, looking worried. Park couldn't stop laughing. She laughed so hard she had to hold onto a console to keep from falling over. Her laughter was infectious. First, Lee Minho started chuckling. Then Bae Sung-hwan began to grin. Soon half the bridge crew was laughing along with her. "I'm sorry," Park gasped, wiping tears from her eyes. "I'm sorry, but did that thing just threaten to enslave most of humanity?" "Yes, ma'am," Lee Minho said, still grinning. "And it expected us to just agree?" "That seemed to be the idea, ma'am." Park shook her head, still smiling. 846 species just rolled over and accepted this?" "That's what it said." Park walked to the communications station. "Open a channel to Earth Command. Priority 1. Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Park Soo-jin to Earth Command. We have just received humanity's first official alien contact. They want us to surrender our freedom and give them most of our people as workers." She paused. "I recommend we send them a reply." General Han Young-soo's voice came through the speakers from Earth. "What kind of reply, Admiral?" Park looked around the bridge at her crew. They were all watching her with expectant faces. "A short one, General. 2 words." She turned back to the communications station. "Lieutenant Kim, record this message and send it to that alien ship." Kim Do-hyun activated the recorder. "Recording, Admiral." Park looked directly into the camera. Her smile was gone now, replaced by something much more dangerous. This is Admiral Park Soo-jin of the Earth Defense Force, speaking for all of humanity. We have received your ultimatum. We have considered your demands. Our official response is as follows. Hell no. She gestured to Kim, who stopped the recording. Send it, she ordered. As the message transmitted to the alien ships, Park turned to her crew. People, I think we're about to make history. Contact all defense stations, recall all ships to home systems, and somebody find our xenobiology experts. I want to know everything we can learn about these council species. Outside the station, the 10 alien ships hung in space like silver threats against the stars. But on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station, humans were no longer afraid. They were getting ready to fight. Dr. Yoon Nain hurried through the corridors of the Earth Science Institute, carrying a tablet full of data that would change everything. She had been studying alien biology for 3 years, ever since the first crashed ship was found on Mars. Now, with real aliens in Earth's orbit, her research had become the most important work on the planet. The emergency meeting was already starting when she arrived. Admiral Park sat at the head of the table, surrounded by Earth's top military leaders. General Han Young-soo looked up as Naeun entered. Doctor, please tell us what you've learned, he said. Naeun activated the wall display and pulled up her research. I've been studying the alien we spoke to and comparing it to our database of known galactic species. What I found is disturbing. The screen showed biological scans and genetic charts. Every species in the Galactic Council has been genetically modified. Their aggression has been bred out of them over thousands of years. Captain Choi Ji-won leaned forward. What do you mean, bred out? I mean they can't fight anymore, Naeun explained. Not really. They can follow orders and use weapons, but they don't have the instinct to kill. They don't understand what real predators are like. Admiral Park's eyes narrowed. Are you saying they're not natural anymore? Exactly. Look at this data from the Velkari species. Naeun pointed to genetic sequences on the screen. 1,000 years ago, they were warriors. They had fangs, claws, and territorial instincts. Now look at them. The screen showed modern Velkari. They were smaller with blunt teeth and no claws. Their eyes were dull and unfocused. The council didn't just conquer them, Naeun continued. They changed them, made them docile, made them safe. Engineer Bae Sung-hwan spoke up from his seat. But humans haven't been changed. No, Naeun said. And that's because we were supposed to be. 300 years ago, an alien ship visited Earth. The records say it was a diplomatic mission, but I think it was something else. She pulled up historical documents. The ship stayed for 6 months. The alien met with world leaders, shared some basic technology, and left. But I think its real mission was to start our genetic modification. Why didn't it work? Asked Commander Oh Jae-hyun. Nan smiled for the first time since the meeting started. Because the alien refused to do it. I found hidden files in the ship's computer core. The alien was named Keeper Tholnex. It was supposed to introduce a virus that would make humans passive over the next few generations. She showed them a translation of the alien's personal logs. Tholnex wrote that humans were different. It said our art, our music, our stories showed something the galaxy had lost. It said we still remembered what it meant to be wild. Admiral Park stood up and began pacing. So this alien disobeyed orders? Yes, instead of making us passive, it gave us technology. The improvements to our engines, our computers, our weapons over the last 3 centuries, they all came from knowledge Tholnex left behind. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. General Han broke the silence. So we've been preparing for this fight for 300 years without knowing it. It looks that way, Naeun said. Captain Choi Ji-won pulled up ship designs on her tablet. That explains why our retrofit plans are working so well. We've been reverse engineering Council technology this whole time. She showed them the new human warships being built in Earth's orbital shipyards. We can match their weapons and shields. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable, but our real advantage is tactical thinking. Bae Sung-hwan nodded. The Council species follow rigid patterns. They've been doing the same battle strategies for thousands of years because they can't adapt anymore. But humans can, Admiral Park said, understanding. Humans are still predators, Nan confirmed. We think like hunters. We adapt. We improvise. We use the environment against our enemies. The Council has never faced anything like us. Captain Song Hye-jin entered the room, carrying a report from the training centers. Admiral, I have news about our ground forces. Go ahead, Captain. We've been testing human soldiers against Council combat scenarios. The results are overwhelming. Song looked pleased. Our people are faster, stronger, and more aggressive than any Council species. But more importantly, they think differently. She activated another display showing training footage. Council tactics are all about following orders and maintaining formation. Human tactics are about chaos, surprise, and individual initiative. The footage showed human soldiers moving through a mock alien ship. They didn't follow standard patterns. Instead, they used vents, maintenance shafts, and emergency exits. They attacked from unexpected directions and disappeared before the enemy could respond. It's like watching wolves hunt deer, Song continued. The Council species don't understand predator behavior because they don't have it anymore. Admiral Park looked around the table at her officers. How long before we're ready? Engineer Bay checked his reports. The new ships will be ready in 6 days. We're building them around the clock. Ground forces are ready now, Song said. We just need to get them to the fight. Captain Choi looked up from her tactical displays. I can have the fleet in position in 4 days. We'll have 200 ships, Admiral. That's not many compared to what they'll send. How many will they send? General Han asked. Dr. Nayun pulled up Council military records. Based on their past campaigns, they'll send about 10,000 ships. They always use overwhelming force. The numbers made everyone quiet again. 200 human ships against 10,000 alien vessels. Admiral Park smiled that dangerous smile again. Good, they'll be overconfident. Admiral? Captain Choi looked confused. Think about it, Park explained. They've never lost a battle because they've never fought real warriors. They'll come at us with their standard formations following their ancient playbooks. They won't expect us to fight back effectively. She pointed to the genetic data still displayed on the screen. For thousands of years, they've been fighting children. Docile, modified species that can't really hurt them. They have no idea what happens when predators fight back. General Han was starting to smile too. They think this will be like their other 846 conquests. But it won't be, Admiral Park said. Because we're not going to follow their script. We're not going to surrender or run away or beg for mercy. She looked each of her officers in the eyes. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten Earth. We're going to show them what real predators can do. Outside, the alien ships continued to orbit Earth, waiting for humanity's surrender. Their crews probably felt safe and confident. After all, they had never met a species that fought back. But inside the Earth Science Institute, humans were learning everything they could about their enemies. And what they learned gave them hope. The galaxy had forgotten what it meant to have fangs and claws and the will to use them. Humanity was about to remind them. The Council enforcement fleet arrived exactly when they said they would. 10,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, their formation perfect and precise. Admiral Park watched them on the tactical display and felt her heart rate increase, but not from fear. My God, whispered Captain Lee Minho. There are so many of them. The human fleet waited near Mars, hidden behind the planet's shadow. 200 ships against 10,000. Every rational calculation said humanity should surrender immediately. Admiral Park opened a channel to all human vessels. This is Admiral Park to all ships. Today we make history. Today we show the galaxy that some species refuse to kneel. She looked at the massive enemy formation approaching Earth. Remember your training. Trust your instincts. Fight like the predators you are. The Council fleet moved in perfect lines toward Earth, just as Dr. Yoon had predicted. They broadcast surrender demands every few minutes, expecting Earth's governments to finally see reason. Pilot Oh Jae-hyun sat in the cockpit of his fighter, attached to the human battleship Defiance. He had studied the Council's battle tactics for weeks. They were predictable, formal, and completely unsuited for fighting humans. All fighters, this is Control, came the voice of Captain Choi Ji-won. Enemy fleet is maintaining standard approach formation. They're not even scanning for us properly. Oh Jae-hyun smiled. The Council ships were so confident that they weren't taking basic precautions. Their sensors were focused forward, looking for surrendering human vessels, not hidden ambush fleets. Defiance actual to all units. Admiral Park's voice filled the comm channels. Enemy fleet is passing the asteroid belt. Begin Phase 1. The human fleet moved out from behind Mars but not toward the enemy. Instead, they headed for the asteroid belt that the Council ships had just passed through. On the Council flagship, Executor Vex Thul studied the tactical display with growing confusion. Navigation. Why are the human ships moving away from their homeworld? Unknown executor. They appear to be heading for the debris field we just cleared. Vexthal's 6 arms twitched with annoyance. Perhaps they are fleeing. Send a squadron to capture them before they can escape the system. 1,000 council ships broke formation and turned back toward the asteroid belt. It was exactly what Admiral Park had hoped for. Phase 2, she ordered. Captain Song Hyejin's boarding ships had been hiding inside the largest asteroids, using human mining equipment to hollow out temporary bases. As the council squadron approached, human ships emerged from rocks that the aliens had dismissed as harmless debris. The council ships suddenly found themselves surrounded by human vessels that appeared from nowhere. Their rigid formations crumbled as they tried to respond to attacks from all directions. Oh Jae-hyun launched his fighter directly from an asteroid, using the rock's gravity to slingshot himself toward a council cruiser. The alien ship's gunners couldn't track his erratic flight path. They were programmed to fight other formations, not individual pilots who moved like they were insane. "This is Jae-hyun," he reported over the comm, beginning attack run on Council heavy cruiser. His fighter dove under the alien ship's main guns, then pulled up to attack the engine sections. The Council ship tried to turn to bring its weapons to bear, but human fighters were already attacking from 3 other directions. Captain Song's boarding parties struck next. Her ships attached themselves to Council vessels like parasites, cutting through hull plating with tools designed for asteroid mining. The aliens inside had never faced boarders who moved like hunting wolves. Song led the first boarding team herself, moving through the alien ship's corridors with practiced efficiency. The Council crew tried to stop them, but their weapons were designed for formal duels, not close-quarters combat with creatures who had evolved from persistence hunters. "Boarding Team Alpha to Admiral," Song reported. "Council ship Harmony secured. Enemy crew has surrendered." Back at the main battle, Admiral Park watched as her plan unfolded perfectly. The 1,000-ship Council squadron was being torn apart by 200 human vessels. But the real surprise was still coming. "Admiral," reported Captain Choi from the tactical station, "the main Council fleet is turning around to help their squadron." "Perfect," Park replied. Phase 3. As the main Council fleet turned back toward the asteroid belt, they exposed their rear formations to Earth's orbital defense platforms. These weapons had been upgraded with alien technology and were much more powerful than the Council expected. The defense platforms opened fire, sending torrents of energy into the enemy fleet's unprotected rear ranks. Council ships that had been built for intimidation, not real combat, began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. But Admiral Park's masterstroke was still to come. While the Council fleet was focused on the battles behind and ahead of them, human ships emerged from the shadow of Earth's moon. These vessels had been hiding there for 3 days, powered down and silent. Captain Bai Sung-hwan led this reserve fleet directly into the side of the Council formation. The aliens had no idea they were coming until human weapons started tearing through their ships. "This is impossible," Executor Vexthal said, staring at his tactical display. The perfect formation that had conquered 846 species was falling apart. "How are they fighting back so effectively?" His military advisor, a modified creature that looked like a walking tree, consulted its tactical computer. "Executor, their battle patterns do not match any known configurations. They are not following proper military doctrine." "Then what are they following?" The advisor paused, accessing its databases. "The patterns resemble hunting behaviors. Pack hunting behaviors." Vexthal's glowing eyes widened. No species had fought like pack hunters for thousands of years. The Council had bred such instincts out of civilized races long ago. In space around Earth, the battle continued to turn against the Council. Human ships moved in coordinated groups, striking weak points and disappearing before the enemy could respond. They used gravity wells, asteroid fields, and even Earth's magnetic field as weapons. Oh Jae-hyun's fighter group cornered a Council destroyer near Jupiter's largest moon. Instead of attacking head-on, they drove the ship into the moon's gravity well, forcing it to crash into the surface. "Control, this is Jae-hyun. Enemy destroyer eliminated by gravitational impact." "Confirmed, Jae-hyun. That's the 15th ship your squadron has taken down." The Council's superior numbers meant nothing when their ships couldn't effectively fight back. Their crews had been trained for thousands of years to follow orders and maintain formations. They had no idea how to handle enemies who fought like wild animals. Admiral Park opened a channel to the Council flagship. Executor Vexthol, this is Admiral Park Soo-jin. I believe you wanted to discuss terms. Vexthol's image appeared on screen, his bark-like skin pale with shock. This is not possible. You are a primitive species. You should have surrendered by now. Should have, Park agreed. But we didn't. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take your remaining ships and leave this system. You're going to tell the Council that Earth is off limits. The Council will send more fleets. Vexthol threatened, but his voice shook. Park's smile was predatory. Let them come. We'll be ready. The battle was ending. Of the 10,000 Council ships, fewer than 3,000 remained functional. The human fleet had lost only 37 vessels. As the surviving Council ships began their retreat, Admiral Park addressed her fleet one final time. People of Earth, today we proved something important. We proved that freedom is worth fighting for. We proved that some species refuse to be tamed. She looked out at the debris field that had once been the invincible Council fleet. But this is just the beginning. The Council will return, and when they do, we'll be ready to teach them the same lesson again. In the depths of space, the fleeing Council ships carried news that would shake the galaxy. For the first time in millennia, a species had not only refused to surrender but had won a decisive victory. The age of easy conquest was over. The hunters had returned to the galaxy. 6 months after the battle at Earth, Admiral Lim Sung-ho stood on the bridge of the human battleship Liberation, watching a blue and green world grow larger on the view screen. This was Velcros, homeworld of the Velkari people, and humanity's first target in their campaign to free the galaxy. Admiral, reported Captain Yu Tae-hyung from the tactical station, we're detecting Council defense platforms around the planet. Looks like they've reinforced their positions since our victory at Earth. Sung-ho nodded. The Council had been busy since their defeat. They were strengthening defenses around their most important worlds and spreading propaganda about the dangerous humans who threatened galactic peace. Any response from the planet's surface? Sung-ho asked. Communications Officer Shin Aryam checked her displays. No official response from the Council government, sir. But we're picking up encrypted transmissions from the underground. Resistance. The resistance was why they were here. Dr. Yoon's genetic research had revealed something remarkable about the Council's conquered species. The modifications that made them docile weren't permanent. With the right treatment, they could be reversed. More importantly, the modifications didn't affect everyone equally. Some individuals in every species retained traces of their original nature. These individuals usually became rebels, criminals, or outcasts in Council society. Humanity had been secretly contacting these groups for months. Put me through to the resistance, Sung-ho ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed a Velkari unlike any the humans had seen before. This one had filed teeth and scars across its face. Its eyes burned with an intelligence that the modified Velkari had lost. I am Veltar of the Free Claws, the alien said in broken human language. You are the warriors who defeated the Council fleet? We are, Sung-ho replied. And we're here to help you reclaim your world. Veltar's scarred face showed something the humans had never seen in a Council species before. A predator's smile. The liberation of Velcros began with Dr. Kang Mirai's medical teams landing on the planet's surface. They carried genetic treatments that could reverse centuries of Council modifications. The process was risky and painful. But for the first time in 1,000 years, Velkari could choose to become warriors again. Captain Song Hye-jin led the ground assault on the Council's administrative centers. Her human marines fought alongside Velkari rebels who were rediscovering their hunting instincts. The combination was devastating. This is Song to Admiral, she reported from inside the planetary governor's complex. Council forces are retreating. The Velkari who've received the treatment are impressive. Sung-ho could hear roaring in the background of the transmission. The sound sent chills down his spine, but they were good chills. Those roars meant another species was remembering what it felt like to be free. The space battle above Velcros was different from the fight at Earth. The Council fleet was smaller but more careful. They had learned to respect human tactics, but they hadn't learned about their new allies. Commander Oh Jae-hyun led a combined squadron of human fighters and newly awakened Velkari pilots. The Velkari flew their ships like they were living creatures, using instincts that had been dormant for centuries. Human pilots, this is Velkash, came a voice over the comm system. We follow your lead, but we fight with our claws. Jae-hyun watched as the Velkari fighter dove toward a Council cruiser, ignoring defensive fire that would have forced a human pilot to retreat. The alien ship smashed into the cruiser's bridge section like a guided missile, destroying both vessels but taking out the enemy's command structure. "Velkash, what are you doing?" Jaehyun shouted into his comm. "What my ancestors did," came the reply from another Velkari pilot. "We die fighting if we must die. Better than living as pets." The battle for Velkros lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Council had lost another fleet, and the Velkari had their world back. But the real victory was what happened next. Dr. Kang worked around the clock to treat as many Velkari as possible. Not all of them chose the procedure. Some had been modified so extensively that they couldn't handle their original nature. But enough chose freedom to form the core of a new Velkari military. "Admiral," Kang reported after a week on the planet, "the genetic reversal is working better than we hoped." The Velkari weren't just warriors before the Council took them. They were artists, philosophers, and explorers too. She showed him examples of new Velkari art, sculptures and paintings that captured the joy of rediscovered freedom. But she also showed him weapons and ship designs that improved on both human and Council technology. "They're not just getting their fighting spirit back," Kang continued. "They're getting their creativity back too." Within a month, 3 more worlds had contacted the human fleet. The news of Velkros had spread through the underground networks that connected resistance groups across the galaxy. Species that hadn't felt hope in centuries were beginning to believe that freedom was possible. Captain Shin Arium became humanity's chief diplomat, working with resistance groups on dozens of worlds. Each species had its own story of conquest and modification, but they all shared the same desire to be free. "The Thorani were explorers before the Council found them," she reported to Admiral Seung-ho. "Their modifications made them afraid of open space. But if we can reverse the changes, they could be incredible allies." "The Kethmor were builders," she continued. "The Council turned them into maintenance workers, but they used to create cities that could float in gas giant atmospheres. Each liberated world made the human fleet stronger. The Velkari provided fierce warriors and innovative weapons. The Thorani gave them new navigation techniques and knowledge of hidden routes through the galaxy. The Kethmor built ships and stations that surpassed anything humans had imagined. But the most important thing they provided was proof. Proof that the Council's system could be broken. Proof that modified species could be free again. Proof that the galaxy didn't have to accept tyranny as natural law. 6 months after Velkros, Admiral Seung-ho's fleet had grown from 200 human ships to over 3,000 vessels, crewed by a dozen different species. They called themselves the Liberation Fleet, and they were becoming a real threat to Council power. The Council's response was predictable, but desperate. They began executing resistance members on worlds they still controlled. They increased their military presence throughout the galaxy. They even tried to negotiate with humanity, offering to recognize Earth's independence if humans would stop corrupting other species. Admiral Park's response to the Council's offer was broadcast across the galaxy. "Freedom is not a gift that can be given or taken away. It's a choice every thinking being deserves to make." The message was transmitted in 100 different languages to every world in Council space. On many of those worlds, people heard it and began to remember what choice meant. Commander Yoo Tae-hyung brought Admiral Seung-ho the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, we're tracking 17 separate uprisings across the galaxy. The Council is losing control." Seung-ho studied the star chart showing rebel activity. Red dots marked worlds in open rebellion. Yellow dots showed worlds with growing resistance movements. Green dots indicated targets for future liberation operations. "They're spreading themselves too thin," he observed. "They're trying to put out fires on too many worlds at once." "Yes, sir. Our analysts think they'll have to concentrate their forces soon. Probably around their core worlds," Seung-ho smiled. The Council was learning what every tyrant learned eventually, that ruling by fear only worked as long as people stayed afraid. Once they stopped being afraid, they started fighting back. "Set course for the hegemony sector," he ordered. "It's time to take this war to the Council's heartland." As the Liberation Fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Admiral Seung-ho looked out at his mixed armada of human, Velkari, Thorani, and Kethmor ships. Each one represented a species that had chosen freedom over safety, struggle over submission. The Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years by convincing everyone that resistance was hopeless. But humanity had taught them something new. Sometimes hope was the most dangerous weapon of all. The Council homeworld of Nexus Prime had stood unconquered for 10,000 years. Its massive cities reached from the planet's surface to orbit, connected by towers that pierced the atmosphere. It was here that the Council had ruled 847 species with absolute power. General Quan Minsu stood in the command center of the Liberation Fleet's flagship, watching the greatest armada in galactic history prepare for the final battle. 5,000 ships from 30 different species surrounded Nexus Prime, all united by a single purpose: ending the Council's reign of terror. "General," reported Captain Nam Jisoo from the communications station, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 Council member species. They want to negotiate separate peace treaties." Quan smiled grimly. The Council's alliance was crumbling as member species realized the war was already lost. Many of them had never wanted to fight humanity in the first place, but the Council's system gave them no choice. "Tell them to stand down their forces and wait," Quan ordered. "We'll deal with individual species after we finish with the Council leadership." Ambassador Lee Soo-young approached the general's position. She had been negotiating with various Council factions for weeks, trying to minimize the bloodshed when the final assault began. "General, I have a message from the High Council," she said. "They're finally ready to discuss terms." "What kind of terms?" "Complete human autonomy, recognition of Earth's territorial claims, and a formal apology for the initial ultimatum." Soo-young paused. "They're also offering to return to the old borders from before their expansion began 3,000 years ago." Quan considered this for a moment. It was actually a generous offer from the Council's perspective. They were essentially proposing to give up half their territory in exchange for being allowed to continue ruling the rest. "Not enough," he said finally. "Sir, they're still thinking like rulers, Soo-young. They still believe they have the right to control other species as long as they leave us alone." Quan looked out at the Liberation Fleet surrounding them. "But this isn't just about humanity anymore." He activated the fleet-wide communications system. "This is General Quan to all Liberation Fleet vessels. The Council has offered to negotiate. They want to give us our freedom in exchange for leaving them alone with everyone else." He paused, knowing that his next words would determine the future of the galaxy. "I reject their offer. Freedom isn't something you negotiate for some people but not others. Either everyone in this galaxy has the right to choose their own path, or no one does." The cheers that erupted across the fleet communications could be heard even through the static of 5,000 different transmitter systems. Humans, Velkari, Thorani, Kethmor, and dozens of other species all expressing their agreement in their own languages. The assault on Nexus Prime began at dawn local time. General Quan had learned from studying human military history that psychological impact was often as important as firepower. The sight of the sun rising behind the Liberation Fleet would be burned into Council memory forever. Captain Song Hejin led the ground invasion forces toward the Council's government complex. Her Marines included volunteers from every species in the Liberation Fleet. They had trained together for months, learning to fight as a unified force despite their different biologies and cultures. "Remember," Song told her troops as their landing craft approached the planet's surface, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to liberate. The difference matters." The Council's defense forces put up fierce resistance, but they were fighting with the same rigid tactics that had failed them for the past 2 years. The Liberation Fleet had learned to be flexible, creative, and unpredictable. Pilot Oh Jae-hyun led a squadron of mixed fighters through the defensive platforms that protected the Council's capital city. His wingmen included a Velkari who flew like a hunting bird, a Thorani who could navigate through gravity fields that would crush other pilots, and a Kethmor whose ship could literally reshape itself during combat. "This is Jae-hyun to all squadrons," he reported, as they broke through the orbital defenses. "Path is clear for the landing forces." The battle for the Council chambers themselves lasted only 6 hours. The Council's guards were well-trained and well-equipped, but they had never faced enemies who fought with the desperate fury of beings who had lived their entire lives in cages. When the doors to the High Council chamber finally opened, General Quan entered with Ambassador Lee at his side. The ancient hall where galactic law had been written for millennia was filled with the leaders of the most powerful empire in the galaxy's history. Executor Vex Thul, the same alien who had delivered the original ultimatum to Earth, stood among the Council members. His bark-like skin had grown pale and cracked with stress. "You have won," he said, his voice hollow with defeat. "What are your terms for our surrender?" General Quan looked around the chamber at the beings who had ruled countless worlds with absolute power. Some of them looked terrified. Others seemed resigned. A few appeared almost relieved. "Our terms are simple," Quan said. "Dissolution of the Galactic Council as a governing body. Immediate independence for all member species. Reparations for species that were genetically modified against their will. And trials for council leaders who ordered the execution of resistance fighters." Vexthal's 6 arms trembled. "You would destroy 10,000 years of galactic civilization?" "No," Ambassador Lee stepped forward. "We're going to replace it with something better." She activated a holographic display that showed the Liberation Fleet's proposal for galactic governance. Instead of a central authority that ruled by force, there would be a voluntary federation where species could choose their own level of participation. "The Galactic Federation," Lee explained. "No species rules another. No forced compliance. No genetic modifications without consent. Just cooperation between free peoples who choose to work together." The council members looked at each other in confusion. They had spent so long believing that order could only come from control that they couldn't imagine any other way. "How would you maintain peace?" asked one of the younger council members. "The same way you maintained war," General Quan replied, "with the understanding that some things are worth fighting for. But instead of fighting to conquer, we'll fight to protect." Over the following weeks, the transition began. The hardest part wasn't defeating the council's remaining forces. Most of them surrendered once news of the capital's fall spread. The hardest part was helping thousands of species learn how to be free again. Dr. Kang Mireille and her medical teams worked around the clock to reverse genetic modifications on dozens of worlds. Not every species chose to undergo the treatment, and that was their right. But for those who did, the results were remarkable. Species that had been laborers for millennia rediscovered their artistic traditions. Former soldiers found peace in farming and building. Entire civilizations began to remember who they had been before the council changed them. Captain Nam Jisoo was put in charge of establishing the new Federation headquarters. Rather than taking over the council's massive complex on Nexus Prime, she chose a smaller space station in neutral territory. The symbolism was important. The Federation would be a meeting place, not a throne room. The first Federation Council meeting will include representatives from 43 species. She reported to General Quan. "They've all chosen to participate voluntarily." Quan nodded, reviewing the list of participating species. Some were former council members who had embraced the new system. Others were newly liberated worlds still learning what freedom meant. All of them had one thing in common. They were there because they chose to be. The old council chambers on Nexus Prime were converted into a museum. The plaque that Admiral Park had suggested was installed at the entrance. Here stood those who demanded submission. They learned that some species are born to bow, others to stand, and a rare few to teach the difference. But the most important part of the museum was the final exhibit. It showed the moment when humanity first laughed at the Council's ultimatum. And it explained why that laughter had changed everything. When faced with impossible odds, the exhibit read, "Most species calculate the probability of success and surrender when the numbers are against them. Humanity taught the galaxy something different. Sometimes the refusal to accept defeat is more powerful than any weapon." Years later, when historians wrote about the end of the Council era, they would debate what humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization had been. Some said it was their military tactics. Others pointed to their diplomatic innovations or their genetic research. But Admiral Park, now retired and teaching at the new Federation Military Academy, had a different answer. "Our greatest gift to the galaxy," she told her students, "wasn't showing them how to fight. It was showing them that some things are worth fighting for." The galaxy had learned to laugh at tyranny, and once that laughter started, it could never really be stopped.